The modified one zone method consists of making a set of 3 bracketed exposures. At first, importing 3 bracket exposures per scene may seem a little overwhelming. A day's shoot of 20 scenes will produce 60 files. Yes, and 100 scenes will produce 300 files. However, this one zone Lightroom workflow will help. Using Lightroom stacking features, you can collapse these bracketed exposures so you are viewing the same number of shots. If you're not familiar with Lightroom stacking, it is a powerful tool. As you can see from this Lightroom screen, these are 3 bracketed sets. Okay, and let's take a look at the next set of 3. The first one will be 1 1/3 stops. Now I want you to notice here, I want you to notice the histogram. And that is exposing to the right. And if I go to the next one, which is a little less exposure, you'll see the histogram become more to the left. And of course, if I go to my 2 stops over, I'm really slamming it up against the right side. So I guess I'm going to do this one more time. Well, let me pick this set of 3, just to drive home the point. This is my base exposure of 1 1/3 stops over the camera's recommended exposure. Let's take a look at the next image. This is the 2/3 of a stop, overexposed. And the final image looks pretty overexposed to us. And again, this is 2 EV. I'll go through them again. Here is the first of the bracketed set. This is 1 1/3 stops EV plus. Notice the histogram. Then this is the 2/3 overexposure, or plus 2/3. It looks pretty good. And finally, the one that's overexposed. So again, to look through all of these could be a little tedious, but as I said, if we understand Lightroom stacking, these 3 belong to the same group. You could always go to the menu, Photos, Stacking, Group in a Stack. But I find right mouse clicking will always present you with your stacking option. Let me unstack this for a second. Okay, so what I want you to notice is that there are 60 photos. Now, I only really took 20 scenes. However, with our 3 bracketed exposures, I have 60 images, which can be a little overwhelming, but here comes the power of Lightroom. I can right mouse click, go to my stacking option, and if I go all the way down, there's something that says auto stack by time. So when I press this, if I go to 1 second, it shows that I will have 20 stacks and there'll be 0 unstacked. When I click stack, I want you to notice that now these brackets all have little shields in front of them. It says photo is part of a stack. Photo is part of a stack. Photo is part of a stack. Now, working with stacks, all I have to do is click the first in the group, and the stack will collapse. If I click it again, it will open up. Click it, it closes. Click it, it opens up. Now, this can be a little tedious if you have hundreds of photos. So again, by right mouse clicking and say stacking, collapse all stacks, I want you to notice now that down here, it no longer says just 60 photos. It says 20 of 60 photos. Again, right mouse clicking, go down to stacking, expand all stacks, and you can see every one of the exposures. Let me select all, and then let me right mouse click and go to my stacking and say unstack. Now at this point, I should be back to where I was. 60 images, edit, deselect active photo, repeat the auto stacking again. I can simply right mouse click to address my stacking function. I can go down and say auto stack by time, and again I usually choose 1 second, and you'll notice the shields show on the brackets. So all I have to do is say stack. It's created these stacks by time. I'm going to right mouse click. I'm going to say collapse all stacks. And now I'm looking at the 20 scenes that I shot. As I said, editing your one zone bracketed exposure stacks is similar to your normal Lightroom selection workflow, except you are selecting one zone bracket stacks instead of individual images.